Gringas. They're like good. Welcome back to my kitchen. The next page in our taco manual takes us to Gringas. 2 flour tortillas, melted cheese in between. You can put different kinds of meat, but I'm going to do a very hurry up version of pastor meat in there, and man, they just make everybody happy. But the first thing that we have to do is to make the marinade for that pastor meat. I'm doing it in quotes because it's not really pastor, but it's got those kinds of flavors. We're going to start with 3 ancho chilies here. And of course, when you're working with the ancho chili pods, you have to pull out the stem and then tear them open, let the seeds fall out. I like to try to get as many of the seeds out as possible at this stage, but you don't have to be too meticulous about it, no matter what all the grandmothers say about picking out every single seed. But the truth is, we're going to blend this mixture in just a minute, okay? So once we've gotten them de-seeded here and stems off, then we want to toast them. And to me, that's an absolutely essential step because it brings out so much flavor in it. Just think about the difference between the flavor of a slice of bread and a slice of toast. I mean, it's very, very different, and one is way more appealing. Our toasting is going to be done in a skillet here over about medium heat. I've got this really big skillet because that's what I'm going to use a little bit later on to make the gringas in. And I'm pressing them down. You can tear them into flat pieces like that if it's easier for you to work with. And sometimes you'll find that tearing it into the flat pieces like that allows you to then press them down to toast them. Now, not everybody in Mexico will press them down to do the toasting part of it, but I do it only because it speeds up the process just a little bit and it gives you a more even toast. When you smell them start to fill the kitchen with that beautiful toasty red chili aroma, that's the moment that they're ready to be flipped over on the other side. And if you've done it right, you will, pardon me, you will notice that they have lightened up a little bit in color. Now, all that's going on in the back of my throat is because capsaicin, the hot part of the chili, is volatile into the air when it is heated. So at this stage, you will sometimes feel that tickle in the back of your throat. Okay, and I can smell it, and it's just really beautiful. Okay, so we're going to collect all of these in a bowl now. I am going to go to the sink and turn on the hot water. I want to use hot tap water for this. The hottest tap water you can. Some people say you should boil these. I disagree completely because boiling actually takes some of the flavor away. Hot tap water is the absolute perfect temperature, I think, for rehydrating chilies. I'm going to put a little plate in there to keep them submerged. And our second step in the preliminaries here for making this pastor marinade is to cook some garlic. Now, a lot of times people would do that in the same skillet here. I've got a piece of chili that I didn't get out of there, so I'm just going to toss it down with that. But I'm going to roast the garlic in a microwave. You've seen me do this a lot. It takes all the bite out, brings up the sweetness, and is very simple. Peeled garlic. I'm going to put it in here for 1 minute, covered with tap water. That's it. Very simple process. And now we'll just wait for the 20-30 minutes for these chilies to rehydrate. These chilies now are very soft, and I'm going to put them into the blender jar just like that. Measure out a half a cup of this juice and put that into the blender jar with it. And now I'm going to add all the rest of the ingredients. Of course, we've got the garlic. I will just show you that the pieces are completely soft. There's no stiffness left in them. I've got a little bit of vinegar that's going to go in here. Because it's a pastor-like marinade, I'm going to put in about a half cup of pineapple pieces, about 2 ounces is what we're working with there. And then some of our flavorings here will be a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I'm going to grind up black pepper here. And I want about a half a teaspoon or so of that as well. And I think that's what I've got. Yeah, exactly what I've got there. Okay, next 2 ingredients, the last 2 besides salt that are going to go in here are chipotle chilies. This will add a little smokiness, and well, who doesn't like chipotle chilies? So a couple of those can go in here. If you want it less spicy, then you could just do 1 if you wanted. And then to get a good, nice caramelization going, when we sear the meat, I'm putting a couple of tablespoons of agave syrup in there. Top goes on, and we're going to blend this until it's as smooth as can be. Okay, we don't have any salt in here yet. And remember, when you are making a marinade, that it should taste salty. So this is going to be about a teaspoon and a half of the salt is going to go in. I will just pulse this in there, a couple of seconds there. And then I want to give it a taste because I really want to make sure that this marinade is slightly salty. And the pineapple and the chipotle and the ancho, it's all really good. Okay, now on to the meat for this. This is 3/4 pound of boneless pork shoulder roast. And I'm going to slice it about 1/4 inch thick. Okay, I'll put this into a bowl here, and I'm going to pour in half of what we have here. You'll be able to save this remainder in the refrigerator for, I would say, probably about 3 weeks or so, and in the freezer for a number of months. And we're going to mix this marinade with those slices of pork. And then as soon as I wash my hands, we're going to be ready to move on to searing them in that skillet there. Okay, I've got my pan here over a medium-high heat. You can do this searing in oil, or you could use a little bit of fresh rendered pork lard, which is what I am using here. Set that over there. I want to make sure that the whole bottom of this cast iron pan is completely covered with what I would call a nice even coat. And now we'll take the pieces of pork. You could marinate these for a few hours if you want, or you can just do what I'm doing, which is to go straight into the pan. It's a topical marinade. I want to make sure that these pieces lie down flat here. Now let them just sear. You don't really want to touch them until they are at a stage where they're well browned underneath. That will take us several minutes, and I don't know the temperature of your stove or what kind of pan you're working in. Of course, cast iron will distribute heat the most even, and it will retain a lot of heat, so you tend to get a really beautiful sear on it. So I'm going to wait for a couple more minutes before I start looking to see if these are browned or not yet. Okay, the first piece that I laid down. It's got a beautiful crust on it. So we'll start turning these guys. The better that crust is, the more flavor you're gonna get out of this. But don't be fidgety with it. Don't be constantly moving things around, because that will actually never get you what you're looking for. So just be calm. Let it do its thing. And when it's ready, it will kind of tell you here. Some of these pieces are beautifully browned and some of them aren't yet. So we have to let them have their time. It'll take a couple more minutes on each side here, on the other side here. Everything has got a nice little sear on it. And I'm going to turn this off now. And then we're going to cut this meat into little strips, because that's the size that you need to be able to distribute them into the gringa. So I'm just cutting down at about 1/4 inch strips here. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle this lightly with salt. This is very important here, because this is the main thing in this gringa. And so if this is not seasoned right, the whole thing won't be seasoned. Exactly right. Now it's on to making the gringas. I've got a griddle that is heated to about medium here, and I'm going to lay down 2 flour tortillas. If you want to make your own, these would be even better, but store-bought works. Then you're going to put about 1/2 cup of cheese down on the base of each one. Spread it all the way around to the edges. And then on will go some of the meat, the pastor meat here. And by the way, if you live near a Mexican grocery store and they make pastor meat, the kind that you usually stir fry, you could just go and buy that if you like the quality and the flavor of what they do. But for those of you that don't live near a Mexican grocery store, this is not a hard version of the pastor marinade. And then a little bit of chopped white onion. This gives a nice crunch, and I think you'll really like it in here. And next we will put the top flour tortilla on. Now, in Mexico, when you make a quesadilla like this with 2 tortillas, they usually call it a sincronizada. So the gringa is officially a sincronizada. I like to press it down. I have a large spatula here just to help me in the flipping process. But I want to keep my eye on the underneath side to make sure that it's not getting too brown. And once we see that that cheese is really melting, then we'll flip everything and let it toast on the other side. Okay, these look really beautiful, and they're typically cut into quarters. You could cut them in half if that is more convenient for you. I'm going to do that sort of traditional cut for them, and then I'm going to line them up here like that on this platter. And now, you don't have to do this, but I like to do it. I've got some Mexican queso añejo, and I like to sprinkle it over the top. And the reason for that is that when you pick them up and eat them, the first thing you get is that beautiful, bold, kind of Parmesan-like smell of the queso añejo. And you'll be happy.